Nobody thought he'd win. Not the fans, not the experts, not even his own family. He'd never played for stakes this high or gone up against competition this fierce. But then a nail salon worker with a bold, unpredictable style walked into the World Series of Poker, and everything flipped, literally and figuratively. In just days, he went from complete unknown to champion, leaving everyone asking the same question: how did he pull it off? This is the story of how a nail salon worker with a dream outplayed everyone. In 1972, as the Vietnam War wound down for the United States, many American soldiers returned home to a country deeply divided. But for some, coming home was a joyful moment, especially for those bringing brides they had met during the war. One of those brides was Qui Nguyen. She arrived in the U.S. full of hope for a brighter future, bringing along her 7-year-old nephew, Duc Nguyen, and his 2-year-old sister. Duc had to leave his parents and much of his family behind in Vietnam to escape the horrors of war. Grateful for the opportunity his aunt had given him, he took on the responsibility of supporting the loved ones he left behind, sending money regularly and eventually sponsoring his younger brother to join him in America. Nearly 3 decades later, in the late summer of 2001, another Nguyen, 24-year-old Qui, moved to California, settling in Orange County. To make ends meet, he worked as a nail technician, surrounded by fellow Vietnamese immigrants, which eased his adjustment, but it was far from his dream. As he would later admit, it was simply a job he didn't enjoy, taken out of necessity. Everything changed in 2003 when friends introduced him to poker. He was instantly hooked. Starting with small home games of limit hold'em, $100 buy-ins at $1-2 limits, his aggressive style quickly earned him the nickname Tommy Gun. While the stakes were modest, he soaked up the game's fundamentals and embraced his natural tendency to play boldly. His appetite for action quickly drew him to online poker, where he could play every day. True to form, he wasted no time jumping into bigger stakes, taking on $30, $60 limit hold'em games. Then in 2005, a friend took him to Las Vegas for the first time, and he was hooked. The neon glow, the non-stop buzz, it all grabbed him instantly. The Bellagio, then the epicenter of the poker world, became his favorite spot. By 2007, he'd made the move for good. Qui jumped into no-limit hold'em at the Bellagio, learning by trial and error. He rose from 2 $5 to 5 $10 games, mixing in small tournaments for fun. But in 2008, he discovered Baccarat, and over the next 8 years, it drained more than $250,000 of his poker winnings. That all changed in 2016, when Qui set his sights on poker's ultimate crown jewel, the $10,000 WSOP main event. But instead of coughing up the full buy-in, he went the bargain hunter's route. Satellite tournaments, the first 2 tries, bust. One at $565, another at $1,100. But on his third swing, another $1,100 satellite, he nailed it. A golden ticket straight to poker's biggest stage. His family begged him to sell the entry, but Qui wasn't having it. 10 grand? Please. He'd lost more than that in a single Baccarat session. This was the moment he'd been chasing for years, and nothing was going to stop him from taking a shot. The first few days of the 2016 WSOP main event were nothing short of a wild roller coaster for Qui, fueled entirely by his fearless, ultra-aggressive playing style. On day 1, he built his stack up to $120,000. Day 2 was even crazier. He surged to $450,000 before crashing back down to $120,000. But on day 3, he clawed his way back to $300K and finished with $450K again. It was the kind of swing that kept both him and the crowd on edge. The next 2 days weren't as kind. Qui went card dead, getting nothing playable, and found himself among the short stacks. By the end of day 6, he was sitting 35th out of 80 players, right in the middle of the pack. Things got even grimmer as he slid to 25th out of the last 27 players going into the playdown day. Still, despite the bad cards, he stayed laser-focused. He knew the situation, accepted it, and resolved to make the most of every single opportunity. His grit, paired with his trademark Guardians of the Galaxy raccoon cap, was winning over the crowd. Then came day 7, the day everything flipped. Starting with the third fewest chips among the 27 remaining players, Qui went on a blistering run. Facing the most accomplished player still in the field, Tom Marchese, Qui scored a huge double-up when his ace-king flush topped Marchese's jack-10 flush. On the very next hand, he eliminated James Obst, his pocket 10s holding against pocket 5s. Just minutes later, he sent Mike Shin to the rail, calling an all-in with pocket queens and winning the flip against ace-king. In less than a day, Qui shot up from near the bottom to second place among the final 9, stacking just under 68 million chips, and earning his spot in the elite November 9. At that point, every player was guaranteed at least a 7-figure payday. After a 3-month break, shortened to dodge the election season, the finalists came back ready to battle. Cliff Josephy sat on top with 75.6 million, and Qui was right on his heels with 67.9 million. Most players in this spot spend the break training with elite coaches. Gordon Vayo hired Tom Marchese. Kenny Hallard assembled a whole dream team, including world number 1 Fedor Holz. Qui? He went fishing, spent time with family, drank, and, in his words, still gambled a little bit. When play resumed, Qui wasted no time. On the very first hand, he bluffed Cliff Josephy out of a pot with ace-4, snatching the chip lead. He held it for 60 hands before briefly losing it to Wojtek Ruzicka, a dangerous pro from Prague. Ruzicka knocked out Jerry Wong and looked strong, but a failed bluff against Vayo cost him dearly. Qui kept grinding, blending perfect timing with just the right splash of good cards. By the time the final day kicked off with only 3 players left, his aggression had turned into a massive edge. Sitting on 165 big blinds, more than double what Cliff Josephy, better known in the poker world as Johnny Backs, and Vayo had, he was perfectly positioned for a shot at poker glory. Now the room was buzzing with energy as tournament director Jack Effel gave the iconic shuffle up and deal command, with ESPN cameras capturing every second. From that moment, the final table exploded into action, delivering one of the most intense opening stretches in World Series of Poker main event history. Right from the start, Josephy scored a huge double up against Qui. He moved all in with ace-queen.
Pause is good! It's so good when they pause.
Nguyen called holding ace-4.
And he makes the call!
And by the turn, Nguyen's fate was sealed, drawing completely dead. Josephy was raking in a fresh mountain of chips, a dream start if there ever was one. But just a few hands later, that dream turned into a nightmare. On the 5th hand, Josephy raised, Vayo called, and Nguyen squeezed. Both Josephy and Vayo called to see a flop of King 3 deuce, all different suits. Nguyen fired just under 10 million, and both opponents called, building a massive pot. The turn brought a 4. After checks from Vayo and Nguyen, Josephy bet 21 million. Then Vayo shoved for 75 million. Nguyen folded, and Josephy, after a long pause, made the call. Vayo flipped over a set of 3s, leaving Josephy's set of deuces with just 1 card in the deck to save him. The river missed, and Vayo rocketed up to 200 million chips, while Josephy was left clinging to just 8 big blinds. What happened next was straight-up survival mode. Josephy doubled through Nguyen on the very next hand, then did it again not long after with a lucky suck-out that shot him back to his starting stack for the day. On the outside, he looked cool and collected, but underneath, his momentum was starting to slip. Minutes later, his final chips went in with Queen 3 against Vayo's King 6. Both hit a pair on the flop, but the turn and river changed nothing. Just like that, Josephy's run was over. Now it was down to just 2 players, in the heads-up battle for poker's most coveted title. At the start of their final showdown, Vayo had 200.3 million to Nguyen's 136.3 million. But by the time of one pivotal hand, Nguyen had flipped the script, now leading by around 100 million. In that hand, Vayo caught Queen 9 and saw a dream flop, 9-4-2. With top pair and an 82% chance of winning, he checked, baiting Nguyen into a bet. Nguyen obliged with 9.7 million. Vayo called. A 10 on the turn pushed Vayo's win probability above 90%, so he checked again. Nguyen, aware he was likely behind, launched a massive bluff with nearly 28 million chips. Vaio called. With 89 million already in the pot, the river brought a 5, giving Vaio a lock on the hand. Then came the shocker. Nguyen shoved all in, holding a 0% chance to win. The room froze. After a long, tense pause, Vaio folded. Nguyen's fearless bluff had stolen a huge pot, leaving commentators stunned. Throughout the match, Vaio's cautious style had ESPN's crew scratching their heads. He folded strong hands more than once, spots where a gutsy call could have flipped the momentum. Meanwhile, Nguyen never eased up. Vaio's stack would shrink, then double, then shrink again. But Nguyen's constant aggression kept him on the back foot. In one pivotal hand, Vaio flopped top pair, but when Nguyen shoved all in on the river, he folded. A move Vaio later admitted was his one big regret from the tournament. However, one of the night's wildest moments came when all the chips went in on a queen-high board. Nguyen's ace-queen was miles ahead of Vaio's queen-5, until a miracle runner-runner flush saved Vaio's tournament life. They both laughed it off, but you could feel the tension in the room. Behind his sunglasses and raccoon hat, Nguyen stayed cool and composed, while Vaio's body language told a very different story. On the final hand, Nguyen raised to 8.5 million from the button, and Vaio shoved his last 53 million from the big blind. Nguyen snap called. Vaio's Jack 10 of spades was dominated by Nguyen's King 10 of clubs. The flop, King 9, 7, gave Nguyen top pair and Vaio a double gut shot straight draw. The turn brought the 2 of spades, giving Vaio more outs. But when the river fell as the 3 of hearts, the rail exploded. Nguyen's kings held, crowning him the 2016 World Series of Poker champion. Nguyen walked away with $8,005,310, a $50,000 gold and diamond bracelet, and a spot in poker immortality. Even as one of the least experienced players at the table, he steamrolled seasoned pros with an aggressive, unpredictable style, keeping the pressure on, gambling fearlessly, and striking at just the right moments. And it worked. Over 3 days of final table play, he kept his opponents scrambling, turning a classic David versus Goliath showdown into one of the most entertaining WSOP broadcasts in years. In the end, it wasn't just luck. It was perfect timing, sharp psychology, and pure willpower. Nguyen's all-or-nothing attitude backed his opponents into a corner until he was the last man standing. And when you stop and think about it, it's wild. This guy went from working in a nail salon to becoming a millionaire in just a few months. That's the poker dream right there. Proof that anyone, even a nail salon worker, can turn the tables and hit it big.